Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 23 of the second series of Tosh News. We're here to bring you the news from the past 2 weeks, or is it 3 weeks? I can't remember when I was off. What's actually happened on them, but a lot of interesting things happen around them, if that makes sense. So we'll get into it anyway. Anyway, tonight I'm with my co-host as usual, Cero. Hello, Cero.
Hello.
Excellent. We also have Enigmatic, hailing all the way from Scotland. Hello, Enigmatic.
Hello.
And finally, we have a new guest, brand new guest, Red Elite, who's from the community and said he'd pop on, which is something that even you can do in the audience. So hello, Red Elite.
Hello.
Although I guess we'll just call you Red. I did have the sound levels done before, and then you moved away from your microphone. It's fine. I've got it all good and set up there. Right. Okay. So first things first. The meme. So this is a meme for. Well, it's not even a meme. It's just a picture from Tory conference. Obviously, for those on the panel, it's in the other side of the hill. It's the Maggie mural. Not mural. It's the Maggie mosaic. Which, yeah, this isn't the only thing I've seen that's like hero worshipping Maggie Thatcher. And don't get me wrong, I like Maggie Thatcher. I don't think I like her this much. The reason they're doing this and why they're obsessing about her specifically this year, because they've even got a theatre named the Thatcher Theatre, is because it's her 100th birthday. And so I guess this is their way of posthumously celebrating that. I think Margaret Thatcher would genuinely hate this. This is the way I'd put it. Because they've got like 3 glass sarcophaguses of some of her famous dresses as well. It's just like, why? Just how...
I imagine.
I don't know.
I imagine it's for slightly different reasons, but it would be the same as, was it the Mao Zedong, like gift shop? You know, it's kind of like that same. Could you imagine if he came back and saw the gift shop?
Yeah,
and Maggie comes back and sees this, and it's like, oh, this is my legacy.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Fraser Nelson was talking about this as well, and he was just like, Maggie Thatcher would just hate this because why are we ancestor worshipping her? You know, when Maggie Thatcher was in charge and winning elections, she wasn't talking about Churchill. She wasn't talking about the Israelis. She was talking about problems they have now and what they're going to do to fix it. And the Tory conference has basically been. Wow, the Tories were much worse in power than we thought, and now we need to fix all the Tories' problems while basically pretending they're Labour's. Which Labour has made things worse. Gone.
It is quite a funny image, because all I can imagine is that one soy jag meme.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
I didn't even see this.
Oh, the point. What the?
Oh, I can't unsee it now.
Which soy jack meme?
It's just I sent it in chat, but it's just funny because you can definitely imagine them just thinking in their heads, oh, we're literally like Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah, the Everlade one.
For real. She's just like me, for real.
Yeah, and the worst part is it's not even completed here. I'm not actually sure at what time that was. This picture was taken, but I can't remember if we're on day 2 or 3. I think we're on day 2, and it goes on for 4 days usually. We'll get into it today. We've got a story for it soon as well, where you can actually see it. If I'm sure, I am sharing it. Well, obviously, big defections happened, but we'll get into that after the international news and what's happened over the last 3 weeks. Trump. I think we covered Trump's state visit last time. Israel and Gaza look like it's going to have Viceroy Tony Blair in charge of the whole thing. Which I'm going to be honest with you, a Catholic in charge of Gaza, pretty based if you ask me, even if it is Tony Blair. A lot of people are pretty annoyed about that because, Tony Blair does something, he should be in jail. Yeah, I agree because he got a lot of Brits killed for, like, no reason. But I don't think he's going to jail, and I'd much rather he be a high-value target over in the Middle East, being distracted from Britain and his other activist work. I'd rather he be distracted from that because all of that makes it worse. And I mean, digital ID is one that's going on now that I don't think is going to go through for the simple fact of everybody now hates it because Starmer supports it. Right, is there anything else I've missed out in international news? I almost certainly have, but I don't concentrate on it that closely. Sarah, anything jumping out at you?
International news.
Yeah,
the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is, was it the mayor of Chicago or whatever, the governor of Chicago, basically trying to outlaw ICE agents from being able to go into Chicago, but it's not enforceable. So,
right.
So it's basically complete nonsense. It's a nonsense bill. Yeah, that's the only thing that pops to mind off the top of my head.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I've just had a quick look on. Oh, that's the other thing, actually. The other bit of funny international news that we do have to quickly touch upon. President Macron's wife, Brigitte Macron, she's going to show undeniable evidence that she is a woman to an American court over Candace Owens' Candace Owens' accusations. It was so funny. After Charlie Kirk got shot, Tosh got a bit into the American right-wing, I don't really want to say grifter because I don't think Charlie Kirk was one, but you know what I mean, the right-wing scene in America. And
those circles, yeah.
Yeah, so she looked into Candace Owens, found out about this because it was in the news as well, started going through it all and basically said, pretty sure I see a penis, like when in some of the evidence, and I was like, no, she's just French. Trust me, it's all bush.
Oh no! I don't know what's worse, really. Well, anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Oh, Trump also posted those sombrero videos because the Democrats are trying to defend giving a load of money to illegal Mexican immigrants or Southern American immigrants, technically. So started replying with like edited videos of these Democrats defending it while wearing sombreros with a mariachi band in the back.
I remember that. It was funny.
The best reporting I heard on that was on BBC Radio 4, and I was laughing for a full minute on the drive home, where this is literally how it was reported. President Trump sent an edited video of a mariachi band behind the Democrats who were defending spending money on illegal migrants. When they said to him that this was bigoted, he posted another.
He literally Chad yesed it.
Yeah, he just doubled down on it. So
you won't believe what he did next.
Did he cut all funding? What did he do? Or did he do anything?
Oh, it's just it just did it. Just keep calling me racist, and I'll just keep posting.
Do you want to see me do it again?
Yeah, I'll do it again.
Yes, quite. So with that, that's all the international news that I can remember. So it's time for the regional news or British news. So 20 Tory councillors defect to Reform as Baynock insist party having a good conference. I don't think anyone's really buying that. I found this to be just really good comms yet again from Reform. They clearly have a good comms team that know how to play kind of a mixture of the social media game and the classic political, like classic mainstream media game as well. Because this gets you a really good headline, and at the same time, it was really funny that they were drip feeding these for like 3 hours in the morning. That's day 2 of the conference or day 3 of the conference. If someone who concentrates in chat, can you let me know if it's day 2 or 3? Because I kept mixing it up in my video because I didn't actually know. But the way Reform did this was at 6 a.m. they put out a tweet, eyes on this account from 7 a.m. There's going to be big news. And then every like 10 to 12 minutes, there was a new, this Tory has defected to Reform, this Tory has defected to Reform, and they were all councillors. And it was quite obvious that these councillors were waiting to give news of their defection on the day of the conference to obviously undermine the party's united. And at the end of it, yeah, everyone was kind of like, yeah, it's a bit dead, this Tory party. And it's another thing Fraser Nelson said, by the way. Typically, you can tell if a party's in good shape by how many people are in, like, not suits at conferences. If you're in a suit, you're being paid to be there, basically. If you're not in a suit, you've gone there off your own back. And basically everyone at both Labour and Tory were in suits.
Ballo and Alex say it's day 3, so I'll take the word for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought it was. I thought it started Sunday, but I just who cares? Who cares about this conference? It's a bit of a crazy one. So the 20 Tory councillors defected. This on top of 8 Tory councillors moving to Farage's party since March this year, including notable defector Keith Price, a member of the London Assembly who was a Tory party member for nearly 50 years and switched last week. It's really funny because I can't remember who it was. Might have been Simon Clarke, but an ex-Tory MP retweeted the Keith Price one saying, "Sorry, who's this?" And it's like he was in the party for 50 years, was an activist, has been in the London Assembly for like 10, 15 years, something like that. Basically, quite a big name in the mid-level of the party, and at the top brass, they just don't care. And so it's what I said to Tory Rebuttal. Like, why are you in the party? They literally don't care about you or appreciate you. They just see you as a fungible token that can be moved. The Reform's probably the same, to be fair to him, but I don't even think Tory Rebuttal's in the Tory party anymore. I think he's just doing an act at this point. Thomas Howe says, let's be honest, we're all dunking on the Tories. They've played a huge role in shifting the country to the right and allowed Farage majority gov seeming inevitable. Thanks, Uniparty. Yeah, that's... Well, yeah, but they could have just done all the right-wing things they were voted in to do in 2019, couldn't they? So I'm not giving them credit for that. They're being dunked
also, these right-wing policies, are they in the room with us right now?
Well, that's the other funny thing. They keep trying to say Reform a socialist, but they keep saying this a day after they've openly said they're going to have other redistributive policy, like giving $5,000 to young people who get jobs. It's nuts that they're trying to say that. And also, they were celebrating keeping the winter fuel allowance, which is just redistributing money to old people, even if they're millionaires. And they celebrated when that was kept in. It's crazy that Tories are trying to say Reform a socialist. After 14 years, we have the highest tax, highest spending, literally ever in Britain outside of wartime. It's just nuts. So, yeah, this was obviously talked about a lot, but the Tories largely tried to avoid it. Chris Philp gave a speech today to a poorly attended conference hall about the Tories' plan to leave the ECHR. Yeah, the only time I saw the main hall really full was when Kemi Badenoch gave a speech, but that's expected of the leader. Listening to some Vox Pops today, and I had one in my video, there were just people saying, "Yeah, I've never really known it this dead. It's just dead." It was apparently busier on today than the last 2 days, but you'd expect day one, the Sunday, to be the day when most people go because it's the weekend, but apparently not. And then Tory members do not think Badenoch should lead the party into the next election. That's the other thing. Polls went out to Tory members, and it was effectively, Kemi shouldn't be leader. We basically need to merge with Reform. I don't know how you describe the Tory party other than dead in this case. Zia Yusuf was right in his article today when he said Tory party's dead. We're moving onward and upward. We'll deliver what effectively they promised, but we'll have bits and bobs that are different from their 2019 manifesto, and is obviously at the moment a bit more radical given they're sending murderers to El Salvador. So yeah, that's that. Kemi Badenoch admits polling concerns in address to Tory officials, so this is all behind the scenes stuff. She's admitted that the Tory leader said the polls, which have indicated a fall of about a third in the party's support since he took over, were not where I want us to be. She blamed the party's difficulties on Reform being a repository for centre-right frustration and anger. Sure. A leaked recording of the address, held at the start of the Tory party conference, also included a comparison of her to Japanese Second World War admiral refusing to admit defeat. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. It's not bad politics to say, be patient, we'll have a big plan in 4 years, let us just work behind the scenes. The problem you've got is that you've got Reform that are doing the opposite. And it's absolutely sucked any sort of momentum and wind out the sails of the Tories. Like, they've gone backwards, if anything. And Tory, basically the only people defending the Tory party now are people whose entire social life revolve around it. That's why Suella Braverman say hasn't moved to Reform. she probably would have been accepted months ago, but just too much of her social life revolves around it. Everyone in her family is a Tory. When she goes to dinner, it's a Tory dinner, etc., etc. It's nuts. Badenoch sought to rally Tory activists at a meeting of the National Conservative Convention, which is made up of association chairs and senior party figures from across the country to represent the volunteers. She vowed to make the Tory party great again and defended herself against criticism that the Tories have been too slow to take on Reform UK. I mean, that's just another really obvious point. They are trying their best not to mention Reform at all this conference. There was a funny bit in the Sky News interview with Beth Rigby where Beth asks, "Do you admire Nigel Farage?" And it was just clear Kemi did not want to talk about Reform at all, and she kept saying, "Why are you asking me that? Why are you asking me about Nigel Farage? Why not ask me about Ed Davey or Keir Starmer?" Just trying to get off topic. Which comes with, yeah, it's a bit weird. You talk about it, they're kind of in a catch-22 on that, because obviously Labour didn't shut up about Reform, and everyone says, "Oh, look, they're scared of them." Tories are trying the opposite of don't talk about them at all, and it's like, oh, look, they're trying to avoid the elephant in the room. You know, I don't really know what either party can do about that, to be honest with you. Damned if they do, damned if they don't. So, yeah, there we go. She obviously calls Reform UK a one-man band, with all sorts of other people tagging along for the ride. That's us, by the way, yay. Ellicott joked her comment about the polling being not to where we would want it to be was similar to a euphemism that was used by a Japanese admiral in the Second World War. Badenoch over the past year has overseen a collapse in Conservative vote share by a third. In November, Tories were polling at 26.5%, and last month it was 17.5%. Nearly 10-point drop in less than a year. That is devastating, and if it stays there... Oh, God, I mean, I've been listening to so many mainstream pundits basically saying, behind the scenes, all the Tories know it's existential and they're kind of screwed. Obviously, they're fronting like, "Oh yeah, we'll be fine and recover. We always do." But I mean, does anyone on the panel see any way back for them? I just don't.
Not really off the top of my head.
Not in the next election cycle.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's it. Their best chance is to not completely collapse now. Wait until 2029, Reform get in. Basically pray that Reform screw it all up. And then, yeah, maybe they'll get power again. But by that point, do you even have a country? You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. It's the problem is that a lot of these people it's not specific to the Tories, but it is something that has been very pervasive in our politics, which is that we've kind of gotten to this place where it's not about the country, it's not about like anything like that. It's about, I wouldn't even say the next election cycle. I think it's like Konstantin Kisin said, it's honestly just about whatever the next day's headlines are. And I think that's the ultimate, I guess, black pill with all of this. Until people stop caring about the what's the word I'm looking for? Until people stop caring about like the election, or not the election cycle. Well, no, maybe if they start caring about the actual election cycle, not news cycle. Thank you. I think that it's going to be. I think it's going to be a very difficult thing to do. It's essentially they need to get past. You know, I often meme about the cycles of grief or stages of grief, but they need to get past denial as quickly as possible.
I mean, the thing is that I think all of them are past denial. I just don't think they can say that publicly. Because clearly the membership's at the stage of bargaining. That's why most of them are saying do a merger with Reform.
Well, that's the thing, because what they've done is basically get rid of their right-wing base. Now they're left with their left-wing base, and now they're catering to a right-wing base they no longer have, and now they're hacking off the left-wing base.
Oh, I think the left-wing base have already gone to the Lib Dems. I think the only base that is left is basically people that are trying to chase tradition of like keep the Tory party about, because it's been about for 2 centuries. Because like, why has Matthew Syed moved from? Because he stood for Labour in 2001, like big Blairite guy, He's clearly. I listen to him quite a lot on like BBC Radio 4 and Times Radio, and well, the Times in general. He kind of gets it of like immigration needs to be sorted. The economy is an absolute mess. Blah 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 blah. And he's landed on, I'm going to join the party that caused all those issues and keep it about. And I can't see it for any other reason than a bit of Farage derangement syndrome mixed with, because he was the one that called them socialist. You know, a man who was a Labour candidate called them socialist, I know. Mixed with, yeah, just I like the Tory party because I'm friends with a load of Tory party members. Because part of the reason I listen to Times Radio is because it's absolutely filled to the brim all the time with hosts and guests who are either Tory peers, ex-Tory MPs, Labour as well, obviously, a few Lib Dems. And it's just quite clear that, you know, reform keep being pushed out. One of my favourite ones to listen to is called How to Win an Election, which is run by Hugo Rifkind, who is son of Malcolm Rifkind, who was in the Tory cabinet. You've got Danny Finkelstein, Tory peer, some Labour peer, some Lib Dem there as well. And literally every time they start off, they just talk about like being at the Checkers, like this really, really elite conversations. And all the comments are always like, do you ever wonder why none of you understand reform? Because literally none of you have a normal person in there that would vote reform.
Yeah.
But it's what makes it so interesting because, you know, the elite theory types AA say, like, I don't actually think he understands that the elites are in a massive panic mode right now. And a lot of them are kind of co-signing themselves to how do I fit into a reform future? Because I think they're going to want revenge on some of us.
No, absolutely. And I think that there is a mistake that some people make, especially people like me who are more conspiracy brained than others, which is that elite theory does hinge on an idea that actually is a bit faulty, which is that the elites ultimately agree with each other. And there's this idea that the elites, they sort of move as an amorphous mass, which can be true at some times, but is usually not true, at least as far as I've seen, or at least it seems like they're not.
I mean, to give a bit of leeway, elite theory does involve like counter elites fighting each other out. It's entirely dependent on the time frame. Like at the moment, especially with Gaza v Israel, they're clearly having a bit of a scuffle over should the West be open to Gaza or should it be completely pro-Israel. Now, America's obviously more on the side of pro-Israel, but the rest of Europe are all basically pro-Gaza. Hence, most of them have recognised Palestine. But that's the annoying thing about people like AA. You know, the whole time he was on Peter McCormack, he's like, here's all these Israeli examples, and he's just completely ignoring that EA's just been bought by Saudi elites. Who are obviously, like, on the side of Israel, having that two-state solution, or possibly even going. Especially Qatar, which is literally hosting all the elites of Hamas while their people die. It's so the main problem with elite theory is that a lot of people who follow it say, "Oh, what the population thinks doesn't matter." I mean, that's just obviously not true. If that, like, you wouldn't be having this populist revolution literally everywhere on the planet if what people think didn't matter. Because, you know, I doubt that Farage, thinking in purely economic terms, would really care about immigration. He clearly cares about immigration because he cares about Britain and its people. And I think you'd kind of struggle to call him, like 2 years ago, an elite, like properly. But, you know, these days, obviously, he's right at the top, but that's entirely due to his power when it comes to the polls, which obviously is entirely derived from the population. But obviously he'd try and say, oh, that's because he's kind of allowed to be there by other elites. And it's like, well, I don't know, they've tried to get him for an awful lot. I think he just generally keeps his nose quite clean, so... And they can't really lawfare him properly like they can with a lot of others. Hence they're going after the guy who had Russian links. And everyone's trying to, like, tie reform in with it there, so... Yeah, basically the world's a lot more complicated than any pure theory like that. But it has its uses.
Yeah, yeah. But I just find that that's an approach that I often see people making a mistake with, where there's this idea that that there's sort of like this top-down idea that everyone agrees with, but actually it's way more complicated than that.
Yeah. A funny thing about apparently it was Trump's son-in-law who bought it as well. I imagine that was Jared Kushner. The funny thing is that Sims 4, I think they're having to change the gameplay so that you can no longer have sex before marriage. I've heard that is actually happening in Sims 4, which, pretty based on red pilled, my guy. But again, not something that, if it was going the other way, people would call it woke. But when it goes a bit more conservative, like, nobody ever notices. And that's, partially due to the Saudis getting their hands on EA. Which in and of itself is a problem, but as I say, nobody really cares when it's actually in your favour. Which is my point of the elite theory part. It's like, if you just do what the population wants, you actually can basically get away with everything. But they haven't for a century, apart from Thatcher for a bit. So, anyway. Badenoch confirms plans to leave the ECHR by the Tories. Well done for finally doing that. That took him a while. It's the other funny thing about this whole Tory conference. They're announcing all these things that Reform announced ages ago, and the reason they didn't announce them was because they wanted to keep it secret. But now it almost looks desperate and like they're copying Reform. But I think Badenoch actually went further and said, if you're not in favour of leaving the ECHR or can't stand by it, you can't be an MP. Which a lot of ex-Tory MPs have pushed back on, which again goes to show they're elite factions fighting it out. What do you want? But I just find that very funny because it's really funny to see literally all the people involved in the last terrible Tory government basically overcompensating for all their issues. Like Chris Philp today put out a social media video about, oh, look at this guy who just went into a Greg's and stole a drink and the security guard did nothing. It's disgusting. And it's like, you were the police minister for 2 years. What are you talking about? It's yeah. So it's the problem with this episode is that an awful lot of it's to do with the conference of two parties that nobody really cares about the details of them, because basically everyone's co-signed to, if Reform don't screw it up, they're in. Because really, what more is there to say on this? Like, yeah, Tories are floundering. We know, we've noticed, but it's weird to have a conference where they have to face up to reality like that. And the only time you can see people truly happy is when they're in their social events after, like the GB News Party, like the Telegraph drinks. I'm sure the ministers have a good time after it as well. And you saw Kemi Badenoch singing Sweet Caroline, and all these young men, frankly, are all around her singing, and you just know it's all cynical. Like, why are they there? To try and get a spad job. They're there effectively to network for their career in a party that's dying, which makes it even odder. But there you go.
Yeah. I guess it's, on the outside, it's sort of very hard to know what they're trying to achieve. I mean, I kind of get it from the perspective of, obviously, they don't want their party to fail. No one wants their party to fail, but it's kind of, they also seem to, at least, to the what's the word? It's kind of the people behind the scenes. They don't they seem to be more honest about it, but it's the rest of the people who are like to the front facing are completely in denial about the situation that they're in. But the problem is that they're not going to be able to do anything until they face the situation they're in.
Well, it's an important distinction, because in the Daily Tea podcast, Tim Stanley was saying, so on the record, they're all in denial and look crazy. Off the record, they're all very cathartic about the fact that they're basically co-signed to effectively be on a deathbed, and you're going to need a miracle to get the heart pumping again in terms of the Tory party coming back to life. But it's just clear they don't know what to do. They just have no idea what to do apart from copy reform.
That's what I was thinking. What can they do?
I don't think they can actually do anything. I have no idea, because you go to Lib Dem, everyone just says, "Oh, see, they just want to be kind of a not serious party that basically stand by their entire record." But then this whole conference was them having a go at their own record without any sort of appreciation that it was them that caused all this. There's basically not been an apology. A couple of months ago, Kenny Badenoch said, "Oh, the time for apology is past," and I was like, "What apology? What apology are you talking about?" And then you've got Robert Jenrick saying, "Oh, you see all these activist judges? We'll get rid of them." It's like, I'm sorry, Mr. Jenrick, but an activist, well, it wasn't necessarily an activist judge, but I know that he will have plenty of super injunctions that he knows about. Many will have been from activist judges as well, that he's not using his parliamentary privilege to actually speak out about, because he's protected from law there. So it's like, you know, how against these activist judges are you? If any of them did something big like that, it would seem at least like they understand the problem. But they seem to want to keep the system all working. Whereas, you know, what will Reform know in terms of super injunctions? Not very much, because they're never in cabinet, which are the only people that will know about massive, you know, 10,000 Afghans being brought over in secret, or Ministry of Defence screw-ups. Yeah, I mean, I know Dominic Cummings knows a lot about them, but he'll go to jail if he ever lets any of them slip, so...
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's a really boring conversation, because we all agree Tory party are dead. They can't do anything. Like, no one has any ideas.
I wish it wasn't the case, in a weird way. Like, I genuinely do. I wish it wasn't actually the case, because the Tories, as a sort of a political structure, were, you know, they had all of the backing, they had all of the resources that you would ever need to make the change that we need, but yeah, they just didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's disappointing.
Yeah, they had 14 years of chance. They had literally 14 years of chances. They won what, 4 or 5 elections? Okay, a couple of them were minority wins, but surely that should scream to them: do something that the people keep crying out about. You know, reduce immigration. No, we're going to make it higher than ever. Lower taxes. No, we're going to make it higher than ever. Stop giving foreigners a load of benefit money. No, we're going to give them more than ever. Of course they deserve to die, and that's why I had a go at Tory before, when he's like, "Oh, these disgusting people backstabbing the Tory party, you know, horrible politics." And it's just like, sorry, but people who, like the Tories that are standing by the Tory party, deserve to go in the brazen bull in Minecraft. You know, metaphorically, it's kind of a slow heat death that they are having, and I can't. It's very cathartic to a lot of us, because we put a lot of trust in the Tories over the past. You know, I've only really voted Tory apart from one election, which was the last EU election, and you know, a lot of people voted Brexit Party for the first time there as well, as a scream of get Brexit done, bring immigration down, let us have our sovereignty, and stop having ridiculous tax and spend regimes. And they made it all worse. So, as far as and how do you recover from that? Answer: unless there's a goddamn miracle, I don't think you do. So, yeah. Oh, this was big news. Robert Jenrick said he didn't see another whiteface on Birmingham visit because he filmed the video from Handsworth in Birmingham, where I think he was having a go about the bin collection there, and obviously integration just hasn't happened in Handsworth. And absolutely everyone, it was either the Spectator or Telegraph interview, I can't remember which, but yeah, he said, "Oh, I went to Handsworth." In fact, why don't I just read what he said? So, Kevin Badenoch stood by Jenrick after leaked audio emerged of the Justice Secretary remarking that he didn't see another whiteface during his visit to Birmingham. He said the inner city area of Handsworth, which he visited for 90 minutes to make a video for GB News' bin strikes, was one of the worst integrated places I've ever seen, adding that it was not the kind of country I want to live in. He said the issue was not about the colour of your skin or faith, stressing instead he wanted people to be living alongside each other, not in parallel lives. Yeah, nothing wrong with what he said there, even if he did, including the whiteface thing. Like, the problem with the whiteface thing is that, you know, how do you integrate into having a white face if you're brown? Answer: you don't. That's because integration's talking about other things. But how are you integrating if there aren't native people there? Because the whole point of integration is that people from foreign lands come to our native land and integrate and become indistinguishable from other people who are native to the land. That's not happening in Handsworth. And the people in Handsworth agree, by the way. The BBC went round interviewing locals there, and they were all like, yeah, I wouldn't exactly call this Britain. In broken English, we're saying, yeah, there aren't white people here, and I wouldn't exactly say that there's an awful lot of British people around. Like, basically agreed with him. It was very funny.
It's mad though, because if you look at the when people came to the country, say like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they would complain because England wasn't like the Harry Potter books, or they didn't have the bowler hats, or that kind of thing. But now when they come to England, they're like, well, there doesn't seem to be English people at all.
Yeah, in certain areas,
crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. It's even in Enoch Powell's speech back in the 60s, he was talking about a whole street where there was one last elderly white lady while the rest were West Indians, complaining that no one on the street spoke, the kids on the street, didn't speak a word of English apart from one, which was racialist. Now, exactly how much of that story is embellished, I don't know, but the thing is that we definitely have bigger things than streets that are comparable to that. And as the ethno-nuts always say, we were never asked. Yes, good point. That's very true. The problem is that then they use that as leverage to try and say, right, all non-white people go. And that's where a lot of people turn off. But I think we're getting close to actually finding the line of where we want people, investigated and reported if... it's basically the criminal line. There's a lot of people who are committing crimes who are getting away with it post-McPherson report because, the police are institutionally racist or whatever, which they were going into actually in a panorama this last week about it, which they did find some on-duty officers saying things that on-duty officers obviously shouldn't say, but when it comes to off-duty in a pub, I'm more like, don't know about that one. But no, they did find on-duty officers doing bad things. So, but it's it's the funny thing about the Robert Jenrick thing is that the BBC, the Guardian, they've knee-jerked into saying what he said's bad, but in reality, I think quite a lot of the mainstream media are actually saying maybe he has a point. He just put it in a clumsy way. Like, I know what he means. They're being way more open to what he said than they will have been 2 or 3 years ago. So we're definitely post-vibe shift. I think that's the main thing I want to come away with here, because I wouldn't exactly... Because as well, most of the cabinet's standing behind him. Kevin Badenoch stood behind him as a literal black woman. So... though she has always been anti-woke, to be fair to her. Anyway, comments were leaked to The Guardian, were made at the Aldridge Brown Hills Conservative Association dinner on March 14. Badenoch, a Conservative leader, defended Jenrick, saying that the comments were made out of context and there was nothing wrong with making observations. True. What he and I both agree with is that there are not enough people integrating. There are many people who are creating separate communities, she told BBC Breakfast. Because, yeah, Kemi's an example of someone who's integrated. She married a Scot. She does stupid things, sure. It's not completely 100% like your average British person, but, who cares? It's good enough. She's crossed the line, even if she did grow up in Nigeria. And does say stupid things like sandwich isn't real food. I heard one of the MPs of that area was accusing him of racism. I completely disagree. I want to make things very clear. In fact, I'm quite worried about these sectarian MPs who have been elected in Birmingham. People are more interested in talking about Gaza than what's happening in the UK. Again, the BBC interviewed the MP for the area and he basically said, this is actually one of the most integrated places because these people get up, go to work and talk to their neighbours. And that was like his only examples. And I was like, yeah, everyone in the world does that. What are you talking about?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, there is a genuine problem, and I contribute to it by not talking to my neighbours. I think we have become a lot more atomized, but
yes,
but that's got nothing to do with.
But
Sarah, that's got nothing to do with what he's actually saying.
Yes, but Cero, aside from talking to your wife in Polish, you exclusively talk in English, don't you?
Oh yeah.
The problem with these people talking to their neighbours, probably not talking English. So yeah, there you go. Which, you know, people's replies to that is, oh, so what, you want to get rid of Chinatown? No, I'm saying be selective. You know, are these places policed properly, etc.? Go on.
I mean, my take on it is quite simple, which is don't make it an ultimatum, because if it's an ultimatum, then I will just choose against whatever it is. It's like, if you're going to make it an ultimatum, yes, we'll ban Chinatown. If we're not going to make it an ultimatum, we won't ban Chinatown, but we will get rid of some of these ghettos.
The question back is...
Just don't make me choose.
The question about Chinatown, has it grown to the point where it's taking up an entire borough in, say, London or Manchester or Birmingham, and have they ended up voting in a specifically Chinese MP who is only interested in Chinese issues? Because that's also not happened, but that has happened.
Also, how many of our
Birmingham.
how many of our street signs are in Chinese?
Well, in Chinatown, a lot of them. But this is the thing; it's like a street. That's pretty much it. You know, that was, and you know, these Chinatown. I think the one in Manchester was built in like I don't know, 1960s. I think it's been around for over 50 years. And it's not caused an issue. In fact, I quite like the sushi they do there. But again, generally the Chinese community isn't really causing issues, whereas obviously you've got the grooming gang issue in areas of Rotherham. So you know, there might even be one in Handsworth that we don't really know about. Who knows? So yeah, this was all quite big, and I've literally just seen a Times Radio Politics upload that's got I think he's an ex-Tory MP now. Is it Najid? Oh, the guy who made YouGov, Najid Swali, is it? He's defending Robert Jenrick. So there you go. Post-vibe shift, as I say. Right. Tories plan a new removals force based on America's ice. It's things like this, like, yeah, in a vacuum that sounds based. Oh, it's Jenrick and Badenoch saying it. I don't believe them. You know, they had their chance with Rwanda. They completely screwed it up. I just don't trust them. It's what we were saying before. Like, anyone on this panel read that headline and think, oh yeah, I trust the Tories on that. Are you all like me?
Yeah.
No, I would never trust them since 2 years ago. So
yeah. So I mean. I don't know, Red Elite, you just the same.
Yeah.
There you go. It's like, I don't even think Tory Rebuttal would try and defend this as like, yeah, this is definitely going to happen. It's obvious that they're just trying to throw out the sound bites and see what sticks. Nothing is. You can't win in that situation. Yeah, Tories attack Socialist Nigel Farage. They pledged 47 billion spending cuts. Again, 14 years to do this, and he didn't do it. Well done. I mean, we'll go into detail on this, I suppose. Accused Farage of marching to the left on economics in an effort by the Tories to distinguish themselves from a party that has outflanked them on immigration. Strive promised tax cuts funded by reducing public spending and insisted that the Tories were the only party that will stand up for fiscal responsibility. He said he would scrap business rates for shops and pubs and promised young people a £5,000 national insurance rebate towards buying a first home.
Oh, you don't mind that sort of socialism, though, do you?
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, oh, Reform are going to stop fiscal drag and put £20,000 to be the limit for starting income tax. Make it the threshold for personal allowance. That's it. We're only going to do that specifically for national insurance, specifically for young people, and it's only going to be towards buying their first home. Which, again, the worst thing you can do for the housing market is subsidise demand even more. The problem with the housing market is you've increased demand with immigration, you're increasing demand even more with all these help to buy policies, which you've added to now. A big problem is you're not building houses at all. Not at all. There's 100,000 made new a year. Yeah, that's barely anything compared to the rest of Europe and America. Oh, they're building on green areas. No, there's still 80% of it. Stop it. It's even more than that, actually. blah blah blah. You get the idea, and their answer is, yeah, make the housing crisis even worse. Stick to the triple lock. By the way, I think they're the only party that are openly defending the triple lock and saying they're going to stand by it. Reform haven't stood by that. I imagine they're going to look at it. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and means test it. I know a Tory, I think one Tory threw out the idea of means testing it, which isn't a terrible idea, but it's not policy. And they've also promised $9 billion in tax cuts, including reversing Labour's VAT on school fees. Fair enough. I think that's ended up costing them actually anyway, so that makes sense. An inheritance tax on farms, good, which it insists can be funded by making $47 billion of cuts, principally to welfare spending. That was the thing. They're not cutting net zero, by the way. They still haven't decided if net zero is worth pursuing. So there you go. But yeah, as we say,
I also
go on.
Oh, sorry,
no, it's fine.
I was just gonna say, I just want it to also be known when they say outflanked, Tories have outflanked. Was it Reform outflanked Tories? I want everyone to have the visage in their mind that they outflanked them in the same way that walking past a drunk, passed out homeless man on the street is outflanking him technically.
We outflanked
this
a
is such
sleeping
an
army.
easy win.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, they shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah. Reform just walk around them. Yeah. You're right.
It's like it's kind of like in the same way that you did a rearguard action when they turned their entire front line away from you. Yeah. They turned all their spears to face in the opposite direction. That is literally what has happened here. They're, let's not let's be specific about what's happened here.
It's like the French in 1940. Oh no, they've driven round it.
Yeah, just casually just make your way. It is quite tragic, but yeah, it's just we need to sort of remember these things because again, you don't need to do much to outflank the Tories on immigration. It seems. I wish it was. I wish it wasn't the case, but that is indeed the case.
I mean, we're saying all this. Oh, look at Mel Stride saying all the taxes cut, and then fresh off the presses from Guido Fawkes, Andrew Griffith furiously reacts to Mel Stride's income tax support. So Mel Stride basically said, in Reeves's position, I'd increase income tax rather than say making all those cuts. And some of that dismay was visible at the Taxpayer Alliance event, with David Frost broke the news to Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffiths, saying, I would also say we mustn't concede ground to opposition, however tactical it is, and I know those in the Shadow Cabinet won't be able to say this, but I was a bit disappointed to hear our Shadow Chancellor just now saying that if he were Reeves, he would raise income tax. I thought our view is that we should be cutting spending rather than increasing any kind of tax. Griffiths looked visibly indignant and dismayed. I mean, this is what I mean. Like, it doesn't take much to break Tory shadow ministers and MPs at this point, because they're just gaff machines. I think it was. I think the Times counted that there were 5 gaffes so far by Kemi Badenoch in this event, and then in an interview she was asked about them, and she says, "I don't make gaffes," and so they counted that as a 6th gaff. It's it's madness. But imagine being at a Taxpayer Alliance event where you're supposed to be representing, fairer taxes, cut the taxes, free market, blah blah blah, and then you have your Shadow Chancellor say, "Oh yeah, I'd raise income tax." Like, what do you say to that event? Just, that's really stupid, but I can't exactly counter signal him as loudly as I want, so I'm just gonna go into a vegetative, depressive state. It's a mess.
It's absolutely bizarre. I don't even know where to unpack. I don't even think I have anything to add to that. It's bizarre.
It's just clear, it seems to be a usual thing with the Tories. Kind of the top 4 great officers of state, Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary, Chancellor, leader, sorry. They seem to have chats all the time, and then no other minister really knows what's going on. And the same thing happens in the Labour Party, by the way. And this is why you end up with constant infighting like this. In fact, cabinet backlash against expensive and complicated ID scheme. Like, how do you screw up digital ID? It's popular. It's been popular for like 10 years. It was especially popular over COVID as an alternative.
It's funny how
still news to me, but
I know.
It's funny how they've managed to get.
Yield.
It's funny how they've managed to get 2, 3 of the biggest, companies that are specializing in this to not help the government.
Oh yeah, yeah. Palantir just like, we're not doing. I think the big reason for that is because they know come out really hard against them. So it's like, well, what's the point in putting all that effort in? Just if we know 4 years down the line it's all going to be rug pulled. Same thing's happening, by the way, with energy companies. Like green energy companies just aren't bothering anymore. And I think Richard Tice was talking about small scale fusion being researched in Lincolnshire. It's like, honestly, Richard Tice is slept on as an MP and as like deputy leader of Reform. Like, he's really good, and people keep sleeping on him because he said stupid stuff a year ago. But he's smart when he's with the plan. It's just when he was making the plan, he was all over the place. But he held the fort, so, credit where it's due there. With his own money, by the way, he put millions into Reform. So let's bear that in mind too. So Sir Keir Starmer is facing a cabinet backlash against his plans for digital ID as fears grow that he will drive left-wing Labour voters toward the Lib Dems and Greens. That's already happening, to be fair.
Imagine.
Yeah, it's really funny because, as I said with the Tories, what do you do as Labour? You kind of can't do anything now. You lost your honeymoon period in 2 weeks somehow. Everyone feels like they're worse off in the country. For some reason, my brother still says, yeah, at least I got what I want with the Tories out. To which I make the point, okay, it's Reform next. What do you feel about that? Which isn't very good, by the way.
I would also be tempted to say, well, was it literally just having the Tories out was the only thing you wanted?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was, yeah.
In which case, then you don't need to vote for Labour anymore then, right?
Well, I don't think he will. Well, I asked him who he'll vote for, and he basically doesn't know. I'd kind of hate to be a centre-lefty at this point because literally every party represents you and they all suck, apart from Reform. And all the alternative right-wing parties that nobody cares about, of course. Maybe you'll vote Advance, who knows. The Prime Minister announced on Friday that digital IDs will be compulsory for all workers by the end of Parliament, which he said would help to prevent small boats arriving from working illegally, which is nonsense, by the way. There's digital ID in a few places in Europe where they still have illegal working problems, because guess what? The people employing illegal workers don't check their ID. Why would they? Cabinet ministers say the plans were fancy and they do nothing to address the issue of illegal migration. The popularity of the proposal has plummeted since it was announced by Starmer. I'm going to bring this up as well, actually. I've noticed that Labour are happy to use illegal migration. Current Tory party obviously call it illegal migration. Again, I was listening to Times Radio the other day. Guess who came on from the Tories and started calling it irregular migration instead of illegal?
Oh, good lord. It's a Kemi.
No, the current all the current MPs use illegal. It's not a current MP. It's an ex one. Anyway.
Sorry, I missed it.
No, it's fine. Anyway, it was Jeremy Hunt. Like, Jeremy Hunt was saying irregular. Yes. And it's like, this is the problem. Like, all the Tory MPs obviously have the directive of try and sound as based as possible. All the old ones who don't get that directive, they're coming out saying, oh no, maybe we should stay in the ECHR. Oh no, irregular migration. And it's just, this is Tory party top brass. These are the people who have more control over the party than Kemi. Realistically, it's going to be an all-out civil war. I reckon it's going to stay. The Tory party will exist in like a year in one form or another, but I reckon there'll be a big split like there was with the Liberals and SDP. I reckon there will be a split there. And one faction, the Lib Dems in that case, will go on for greater things, whereas the SDP, like, where are they now?
The thing is, I would get called. I would get called an extremist. I mean, to be fair, they probably have a point. But when I say that the Tories are basically full of commies, and that like half of the staff probably would need to be. I'm not going to say purged because that's loaded, but we would need to essentially root, branch, and stem the party if it was ever going to be useful again, in my opinion. It is bizarre, some of the things that people often sort of don't take seriously when people say, you know, that the Conservatives turned into a Blairite party. They turned from a Thatcher party into a Blairite party.
Yeah, they're open about that.
And but the thing is, I think a lot of people sort of understand it intuitively, but no one really sort of thinks about it. And I think that that's part of the problem that we've got, where, like you said, a lot of the boomers, they've still got this old paradigm where the point in their heyday when they were popular was when they were being Blairite. And so they think that that's popular, and all of their friends and their social circles, you know, like you said, a lot of these things are just social. A lot of these people will speak, all the people that they speak to, it's like the liberal thing, right? Where, you know, I don't know anybody who wouldn't vote Labour, you know, or wouldn't vote Conservative in this case.
Yeah. Big problem we've had for like 10 years, until Boris Johnson really, was your vote was basically anti the other side.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you vote Tory to stop Ed Miliband, you vote Tory to stop Corbyn. Oh, we finally get Johnson saying stuff we like. You finally get Johnson who says stuff you like. It's like, oh yeah, based. I'm actually excited to vote this time around. And to be honest, this is happening, at least with me, with Reform. Certainly now. I remember last election I was like, yeah, I'm quite happy with Reform, but I don't expect them to do anything massive. I expect like maybe, I don't know, 10 seats, I think the poll was saying at the time. Obviously they ended up with 5. And yeah, I have been happy since. And now it's at a point where any local election that I can vote in, I'm looking forward to even going out and knocking on doors for them. Which, you know, I joined the Tory party and I never really got the feeling that, yeah, I want to be an activist in any way. It's quite funny. I was asked a few times, do I have any ambition to be an MP for the Tories? I was like, oh, don't know about that yet. But with Reform, if I'm asked that, I'm like, yeah, yes, please.
I think the Tories are the reason I'm so black-pilled about politics, just generally, because I did have that same level of trust in them, obviously years ago. I kind of remember the stuff around the Cameron years, and was kind of hoping that things would get better. And I was obviously a bit younger and didn't really understand the full context of a lot of these things. We became disappointed and disillusioned.
We have lived through a ridiculously depressing political time, but if you look at the successes of Reform at the moment, which is basically they've managed to link economic downturn with migration, like they've correlated that, and a lot of people are accepting that argument already. Even if they don't win, like something will be done on immigration on that basis because it will get you votes.
I mean, so far the numbers have been stratospheric in terms of just wins outside of general election.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. It's you know, as I've said a few times,
are turning for sure.
They've already turned. The vibe has shifted. Like, why do you think everyone's trying to sound like a pound shop Farage? Because he's won the argument. It's the only reason, especially on immigration. So, you know, there's a lot to be white-pilled about there, but obviously it's then a case of, oh, do you trust them to deliver? And it's like, I don't know, but you're going to vote for them, so we may as well find out. And if it's not, what then? I don't know. Have a plan to escape. Or if not, fight.
I mean, that's kind of my... I was going to say that's kind of the view that I take. But this is why I kind of get annoyed with people who will check out of it entirely. And okay, that's not entirely true. So people who want to check out of politics entirely and just don't want to have to deal with it and don't want to have to think about it day to day, I actually empathize with that position a lot. But yeah, they're on the right, but they're not going to vote Reform. They're not going to vote anyone or something. They're just gonna, the more accelerationist mindset.
Yeah.
I can empathize with it to some extent, but it's like, I don't see that as like, you should at least give this a go because this is the best chance we have and be part of the conversation as best as you can.
I think it's a bit more than that. It's just, it feels like to me anyways, as if you're abdicating a duty.
Possibly. Yeah, that's not a bad way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, I used to get annoyed at people who didn't vote. No, I never used to get annoyed at people who didn't vote, but now I'm at a point of, like, at least go and spoil your ballot if you really do hate them all. Like, because it's why I get so annoyed at people under, like, well, 40 at this point, really. Like, they don't vote and then complain about everything. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but if you actually engage with the political process properly, did go out, join a party, try and get it the way you do, which they do with the left, by the way, hence a lot of them vote for it, and now they've got what they wanted and they hate it, and now they don't know what to do. Like, ones on the right are so black-pilled on it, and again, I can understand why, because when do you ever get anything from it? Well, why do the boomers get everything? Because they keep voting for it and being activists for it. Like, even when I'm with Reform and door-knocking for them, it's like 90-odd% boomers. it's nuts. It's like, yeah, of course everything gets given to the boomers. Like, what do you expect? They were doing that with Thatcher, by the way. Like, there was a big turnout for those under 30 to vote for Tories at the time, because Labour ruined everything. And honestly, I expect the same thing with Reform now, because there seems to be a way forward with them. And, you know, it's not going to be an overnight win. It took Thatcher till the second term to actually get Thatcherism implemented. The first term was, I think, a bit dire, really, but
I think that's actually the thing that terrifies me the most about this. It's the case that we win, but we're not able to actually make the changes. That's kind of the thing that always bothers me. But obviously, you can't dwell upon it. But it's always there at the back of my mind.
Danny Kruger moving over alone should be enough to make you quite happy and hopeful, because one, he's been in government. Two, he won't just have been him; he'll have come over with a team. He's been talking about these issues as well, and so he will have a good idea of actually, when we're in government, how do we actually achieve our goals. He's also, like, directly accountable to Zia Yusuf, who is a man who, let's face it, all the policy we've seen for Reform comes from him, and we're all quite happy with it. You know, there's bits and pieces you can complain about. He doesn't necessarily think absolutely everything through, but, you know, it's 3 years out to sort out those kinks. You can work it out. But the mix of having good policy that we can see the general direction they're going and the detail in it is pretty good, along with, there's a man who actually knows what to do in government and how to fight the system, so to speak. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a hell of a lot better than Boris Johnson. That's how I'd put it. But
and it's I was going to say, it's the best vehicle that we have. I'll give a gaming analogy, but that some people might be familiar with, where people probably have heard of the Diablo series. But when people are talking about Path of Exile and Path of Exile 2, which was basically the spiritual successor to it, no one ever compares it, like, other than tangentially. They'll only ever, marginally refer to it as, similar to Diablo 4. But no one will refer to it as a Diablo 4 clone. And I feel like that's where the Reform are in comparison to, or in conjunction to, the Tories. Bringing it back to the Tories. Like, people aren't even talking about Reform relative to the Tories. People are talking about Tories relative to Reform. Yeah. And so, I give the game example because I don't get out much. But it's that thing where you can see where the conversation is, and this is where the vox pops that you've been doing on your other channel have been quite interesting to watch. So if anyone hasn't seen them, I'd recommend taking a look.
But yeah. So yeah, digital ID cards. I doubt it's actually going to be implemented. People like the embarrassed Professor Nima Parvini seems to think that, because Blair wants it, it's going to happen. I'm not being funny, but basically everything Blair's wanted for the past, 10 years, absolutely none of it's actually gone through. He's still fighting losing battles. So
I wonder, though, is that because there are morons trying to exact it?
No, it's because it's from the business perspective, they don't want to bother with it because it'll all be rug pulled in 4 years by Reform. From the minister's perspective, it's like, we're having to cut all these departments, and now you want to spend billions on digital ID that everyone hates. What the hell are you doing? That's kind of the two-pronged attack here. And if both of those are against you, yeah, I just can't see it being implemented. Like, you can't force that through. You can't force that through Parliament, let alone handing a contract out for anyone to do. And the problem is, actually, if it does get through Parliament, the negotiation's going to be as bad as Chagos. We'll just pay you all up in advance, so you don't even need to make it.
I mean, put it this way, they'll give it a go.
Yeah. Starmer will definitely give it a go, but he's a man who's just addicted to losing through absolutely no fault of his own. So,
it just makes me think of the. So there was a clip of Asman talking about the Chicago situation, and I can't remember the all of the points that he made, but essentially he was like, I think he pulled up a picture or something of a homeless veteran, and is saying like, this dude is on the streets, you know, he clearly needs some help, and you're spending all of your time drafting up these stupid laws that aren't even enforceable just because you want to get political points. And you sort of, you know, think about it in the same way with politicians. Like, sure, you know, my trust for politicians as a category are in the gutter.
Yeah, but they would be.
but yeah, but it's just like, can you at least pretend like you care about your job, and that, you know, there are. You know, can you at least pretend like you care about your country? Like, one of the things I like about Farage is I actually believe that he loves this country, which it should be a standard, but it's not as obvious as it seems.
Well, that's another hilarious thing. Again, listening to the mainstream, they're all talking about how every conference has been about a bit flag shaggy. Yeah, so yeah,
this still makes me laugh.
Yeah, Lib Dems. Flags everywhere, singing the national anthem. They even had a chant against Tony Blair at one point, whatever. You know. And then at the same time, Farage, yeah, they're fake patriots. Why? Oh, because they're against migration. Great. Labour, same thing. Plastic patriots. They don't care about the country. He's always off to other country, to America, say, to talk us down. What was he talking us down about? We're arresting people for tweets. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good reason to talk the country down.
How dare you go to the country that's sort of well known for free speech, and say how we don't have it's like, literally, I mean, if you want to give like the best devil's advocate version, just assuming ignorance over malice, it's literally like Starmer's like, well, I can say whatever I want, so then we must have free speech.
Well, Starmer's thought process for do we have free speech or not is basically, you know, is the law being followed? That's all his mindset is. So once you understand that, you understand why he says such stupid stuff.
It is amazing.
And then, yeah, Tories, to be fair, haven't quite gone down this path because they've realised that they basically want to carbon copy the reform policy. You know, they want ICE. And they're being a bit more honest about Farage because, frankly, they should have made him a Tory peer in like 2016, but they didn't. And now they've.
I guess we should probably be glad that he didn't.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to say whether he would have actually taken it or not as well. But either way, he definitely wouldn't in 2019 though. But then anyway, on this subject, obviously, you know, as I said before the stream, Labour had tried absolutely nothing against Farage, and they're all out of ideas. So here are a few things to fact check about Farage from Labour's claims. So. Starmer suggested that Reform wanted to deport immigrants who had built lives in Britain and were now our neighbours. Ministers were more explicit, saying that Farage's policy was to deport people who were in the country legally and made a huge contribution to the country. The basis on reforms...
Oh, if only they'd read the ONS data on that one.
Well, that's the other funny thing. Like, what is it, 63% of the Boris wave don't work? Yep. Something crazy like that.
And also, wasn't there a case of someone actually getting arrested for posting ONS data on like Twitter or something?
Oh, I don't know about that one. I've not heard about that.
I'd need to dig it up, but I'm pretty sure someone did get into trouble by literally posting statistics.
I don't.
But I would need to double check out.
I feel like that's one I'd remember, so I've not heard of that if it is true. Anyway, the basis on Reform's announcement that it would abolish the right of migrants to qualify for indefinite leave to remain after 5 years, and instead migrants would need to reapply for new visas with tougher rules, including a higher salary threshold and a ban on claiming benefits. Reformers suggested that this could also apply retrospectively to migrants who already have ILR. In reality, Reform's proposals are not that different from those being put forward by Labour itself. The government is already planning to lengthen the threshold to apply for ILR. You'll need a new spotless criminal record, evidence of national insurance and tax contributions, and a higher English language requirement. Basically, yeah, it's the same. So calling Farage racist was phenomenally stupid. The funniest one, I think, was Shabana Mahmood, who obviously this is her wheelhouse. She's Home Secretary. And she said, no, the policy isn't racist because I'm basically throwing out a similar one, but Farage is actually worse than a racist. It's like, why? And I can't remember her reasoning, but it was obviously very stupid. Anyway, second claim. Starmer has attempted to paint Farage as being responsible for the huge rise in illegal migration to the UK, saying Brexit had made it harder for the government to tackle the issues, which is really funny because they're not even trying to reverse Brexit. Migrants were coming across the channel in Farage boats, the Prime Minister said, adding that when Britain was a member of the EU, the government would have been able to send them back. And in one sense, that's right. When Britain was a member of the EU, it's part of something called the Dublin Agreement, and this stated that an asylum seeker's claim had to be dealt with from the first European country they arrived in, and that member state could send an asylum seeker back to the country if they subsequently crossed into their territory. But it was never very effective, and between 2015 and 2018, the UK made nearly 19,000 requests to transfer people, and only 7% were actually deported.
Wow.
Yeah, so this has been an issue for quite some time. Do you remember it being a massive issue that they came over in lorries? And then when they started cracking down on the lorries, they moved to boats. Like, no one ever seems to appreciate that.
To be honest, 7% is actually quite surprising.
Yeah, well, it's surprisingly high, I'll give you that. Yeah. I mean, what is 7% of that? About... No, I'm getting that wrong. I nearly said 7,000. It's about 190 for 1%, so 7 times that. About 1,400, just under that. Over 3 years?
Sorry, just really quickly.
Embarrassing.
It wasn't... I think Alan is right in the chat. It was not in the UK. I think it was it was 2024. And it was when one of the people in AFD was convicted and fined €6,000 for posting official statistics on rape gangs and in connection to Afghan migrants. So yeah, it wasn't the ONS, the ONS. It was Germany, but it was basically someone getting fined for posting just official statistics.
Yeah.
So yeah, wrong country.
Yeah. So that being said, during the period, the number of people crossing the channel in small boats is just a fraction of what it is today. For example, in 2019, but again, that's because of the whole lorry thing that I just went through. Right, next up, Hitler Youth. One of the more extraordinary claims from Labour was from Lammy's assertion that Farage once flirted with the Hitler Youth when he was younger, something Reform described as disgusting and libellous. The source of the claim was allegations first aired by Channel 4 News. These included a letter from Chloe Deakin, an English teacher at Dulwich College, the public school attended by Farage in the 70s.
My version of this is the best version. What? Farage was hag-maxing. So you see, when the Hitler Youth had grown up and were now old, Farage was then young, so then he could flirt with the Hitler Youth. See?
There you go. Perfect. See? Anyway,
that is my headcanon.
Anyway, the Times just didn't fact check this properly. What this comes from is it's a Channel 4 documentary by, I think it's a guy called Michael Crick, who also I think helped write the biography of Farage. He did absolutely no fact checking on this. He just published that Farage sang Hitler Youth songs. This was a claim by one teacher, Chloe Deakin, and then when he went around actually asking like 60 people who were at the school, they were like, yeah, that never happened. But the Times just don't say that. They just say it's an accusation.
If you sing a song, is it? So Callum probably, is he part of the North Korean, because he's always blaring the North Korean music, so does that now make him...
Callum's an Irishman in denial, that's what he is. So... In response to Starmer, Farage let rip when it came to racism. In a video post on Reform's website, he claimed that Starmer said that if you think we should control borders, you are racist. This was the opposite of what Starmer actually said. In one section of his speech, he said that secure borders were vital for decent compassionate country, and was also explicit in saying that he did not think the people who supported reform were racist. I mean, that's such a pathetic fact check. Sorry, but as you said before, this was actually all about the ILR stuff, which is about controlling the border, by the way, because we decide who's in and out. It's this whole legalese thing in Starmer's head. This is why he says stupid stuff. It's like, oh, I'm calling the policy racist, not the man. But it's like, by implication, if people support a racist policy, they're racist. You idiot. So, saying, oh, actually, he said that people who support border control aren't racist. He just called the policy to control the border racist. Yeah, like the Times, Labour all over the place on this. You didn't. It's a stupid thing to defend. Finally, violence. Farage also accused Starmer of deliberately inciting and encouraging the radical left with his rhetoric in a way that was directly threatening the safety of officials and campaigners. And by the way, us campaigners for reform, we are told to go in pairs to avoid intimidation, which people have experienced. Street stalls have been attacked, by the way, as well. So, there you go. It's happening. Z. Youssef, the party's former chairman, followed this up with allegation that parliamentary authorities have reduced Farage's security detail by 75% in the last 2 weeks, something that has not been denied by the House of Commons. Senior reform sources privately blamed the Home Office for the decision, which is in part the reason for Farage's concern. And he is not wrong to say that threats and attacks against MPs on both the left and right have increased markedly in recent years, including 2 murders. However, the one thing to be concerned about political rhetoric, and another to accuse Starmer of trying to incite violence. Yeah, but it's also 2 weeks after Charlie Kirk died after being called racist for a decade. And that's the other thing. It's hard. No.
It's either incredibly tone deaf or very malicious. Like, there is no in between as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I keep saying it, but I don't actually have an article on it. Long story short, Morgan McSweeney, the Labour Chief of Staff, he's basically been accused of covering up a slush fund that got Starmer installed and got Corbyn out. It was basically a way to. It was basically a way to hide like hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of donations directly to get Starmer in office by a Game of Thrones strategy, effectively. But it was all hidden, wasn't declared properly. The Electoral Commission said, yeah, we're not looking into it. And then accusations just keep coming out that, this Labour Together think tank, whatever, was basically just a money laundering front. Like, there's a lot of evidence for it. It's pretty mad that they're not looking into it. And I reckon the entire Labour comms team is working on spinning that or keeping it silent. And so there's no comms team for the rest of the cabinet, who basically just defaulted to, yeah, Farage racist, yeah, that'll do. Like, it doesn't take much to convince these NPCs to call someone racist. I don't see why a comms team will be involved. And it's got the added bonus of, well, this took up headlines rather than Morgan McSweeney's thing, so there you go. So yeah, that was your fact check.
I think I mentioned it on the other stream, but one of the conspiracy theories I heard was that one of the reasons they're pushing all of this, digital ID and all of this other stuff that's quite controversial, is to basically cover up for the fact that all this slush fund stuff might just sink the party. That was one of the I don't know. It's probably all just them sort of making up as they go along, but it does seem awfully convenient that this stuff seems to all be coming out at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one that it's not been a bigger story, but I suppose when the Electoral Commission says they're not looking into it, it's like, well, what's the story? It's just a load of accusations. But then the story should be investigate the Electoral Commission and find out why that decision was come to, because it sounds ridiculous. But anyway, some people are working on that. So there you go.
Cool.
Yeah, Burnham tried a coup and then it failed because he had absolutely no route to actually deliver the coup that had anything above a 1% chance of success. Like, I've said it before, but the amount of absolute nonsense that would have to happen for him to get in charge of the Labour Party is ridiculous. He'd have to win a seat. How would he win a seat? He'd have to get selected by the NEC, which is completely controlled by Starmer and McSweeney, by the way. They wouldn't let him in because obviously he's there to regicide. He'd then have to win an election anyway, where there's no safe seats, and Reform would throw the kitchen sink at the damn seat. and probably win like they did in Runcorn. It's just, yeah, it was nuts. So he went there, said a few things that Starmer sucks, and then left before Starmer's speech. Like, it was very much that lion meme of defeated male leaves. Like that was Andy Burnham. So, yeah, there you go. Shun un-British October 7 protests, Keir Starmer tells students. Yeah, I mean, it's... This is obviously to do with the synagogue attack that, I don't really have a article on because we know what happened. One man was shot to death by the police, another stabbed to death by the guy, and 2 more in hospital, one for a gun wound, one for a stab wound. Can't remember how they're doing. Either way, terrorist attack that basically ended in multiple deaths and injuries, serious injuries. And from there were a load of people out on the streets basically celebrating. You can't even call it a protest. What the hell are they protesting? They all like Gaza flags, Palestine flags even. It's nuts.
They're protesting that the body count wasn't high enough.
Basically, yeah. I think I said this in Laughing at the Guardian, but yeah, there was a woman who was interviewed who said, I don't care about the Jewish people right now, think about Palestine, basically. And it's like, okay, but this happened in this country, and you've decided to go... White woman, by the way, fully native. Like, this is why whenever people say there's going to be a race war, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Have you seen the average Gaza protest? It's like, it's sorry to go all Jon Snow from Channel 4, but yeah, it's a sea of white faces. I've never seen so many white people. To be fair, it's more diverse than...
I thought you were talking about Game of Thrones for a second there.
No, that's why I had to say Channel 4.
Yeah.
But it's at the very least very, very diverse. And for London, it's very white. It's these middle-class women doing it. There was one that was like cutting off yellow ribbons that are supposed to represent deaths in Israel, or the hostages, like release them, whatever. Just cutting them off a chain link fence or something. It's like, why are you doing that?
They are just spiteful mutants.
More or less. It's just, what can you do? Like, you think there's got to be a race war here? I'm sorry, it's going to be the most diverse race war ever. Hell, half the white nationalists in Britain are brown for some reason. Like, what do you want? It's madness.
Yeah, the race war is going to be very strange when I start deporting all the communists.
Well, exactly. Anyway, one thing that was very interesting about all this, though, is that they were saying that obviously the attack's not British, celebrating, doing these protests is un-British because, moment of sombre for the people who lost their lives. Are they going to deport any of these people they declare un-British? No, of course they're not. No, we've got our British values and you're breaking them. Are you going to do anything about it? No. But it is interesting that by your standard, they're not British. So can we have a conversation about that, please? Or are you just going to say Robert Jenrick's racist again? So that's all I really wanted to get into with that. Farage's security has been cut. We went through that. Reform UK is set to raise Kent County council tax despite promising savings. Worth saying at this point, they never promised that they wouldn't raise council tax. In fact, they were quite open that they're still probably going to have to do that, because the problems go all the way to the top. So Reform UK's most prominent council is planning to raise council tax next year as the party struggles to find efficiency savings it promised during the election campaign. We'll go through why that's not quite true. Nigel described the scale of spending by Kent on some services as beyond belief and insisted the party was going to save a lot of money. Lyndon Karen, Reform's council leader, said Kent was a testbed for party's national policies and the shop window through which everyone is going to see what Reform government might look like. Okay, that's a saying that can bite them in the bum. I can I can concede that. 6 months after taking control, senior Reform councillor told the Financial Times the party expected to raise council tax by the maximum rate of 5%. Diane Morton, Reform's cabinet member for adult social care in Kent, warned that services in Kent were already down to the bare bones and they needed more money. We've got more demand than ever before and it's all growing, she said. We just want more money. Good point to make here, by the way, as well. Dover's in Kent, which is where all the boat people end up. Guess who has to spend all the money when they're there? The council. So it's kind of no wonder. Which is not going to make people who live there happy. Asked how council tax would rise, she replied, I think it's going to be 5%, adding that every 1% increase would equate to an extra 10 billion. Kem Curran declined to say whether the council tax would be raised, but other Reform councillors said they wanted to avoid the full 5%, which is, understandable. I wouldn't want that. Another Reform Council cabinet member told the Financial Times, everyone thought we'd come in and there were going to be these huge costs we could cut away, but there just aren't, which isn't good. And Farage has set up a Reform Department for Government Efficiency team modelled on Elon Musk's Doge initiative to find savings in Kent and the rest of it. So there you go. Not great news, I'll be honest with you. However, Reform were kind of ready for a counter-argument of, well, what have we actually been doing? So in 5 months, 2.5 million saved from home to school transport budget by careful forward planning. Good. 5.5 million saved after and again, that's because they have to pay for taxi services for send kids. It doesn't make sense, just... some councillors have told me that effectively, even if you have like a Motability car on PIP, you can still apply to have your kid taken via taxi to school, even though you've literally already been given by the government a car to do that. So yeah, there's a lot of things from Westminster that dribble down to the council level that they just have to pay for, and it's astronomical numbers. 5.5 million saved after negotiating a discount on the 5 million we paid from a long-term debt 40 years earlier, saving 1,820 a day in interest payments. It's kind of, Kent's doing this. It's kind of no wonder that other councils are going bankrupt. 206,000 saved by imposing a 5% pay cut across all council allowance. Nice. 50,000 saved by scrapping crisis grants immediately. 40 million saved by staying put in Sessions House and scrapping the proposed renovation of and move across to Evicta House. That's good. 32 million saved over 4 years by undeclaring the climate emergency. That's a big one. 32 million just from not doing net zero. Imagine that at a national level. 7.5 million saved by 20...
I'm salivating at the thought.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's one that you will actually feel in your wallet as well.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, the other thing, it goes beyond that as well. At a national level, if you got rid of net zero, your energy prices have come down just probably within a year. Might not be that quick, but it's madness. Scrapping the transition...
You'll notice. That's the Cliff Notes version. You'll notice.
Yeah. 7.5 million saved by the transition to electric vehicles. I mean, that's another net zero thing. That altogether is nearly 40 million. 1.5 million saved by bringing children's homes back to Kent County Council ownership. Wow, they've nationalised. They've nationalised children's homes. And it doesn't stop there. Written to the Home Secretary to ask to be paid for the shortfall in looking after unaccompanied asylum seeker children once they turn 18 and are still without settled status. KCC is owed more than 200,000 for 2025 alone. Kent is owed many years of back to payments from district councils for on-street parking, which could run into the millions. All contracts being awarded to taxi firms for home-to-school transport are being examined, as there is some suspicion of chronic overcharging and duplication. Written to the Transport Minister to request that KCC receives some of the profit to fix its roads if tolls are increased on the Dartford crossing. And they're investigating the possibility of implementing a foreign freight tax to be paid at entry in Dover and Folkestone. Folkestone? I don't know how to say that. Money would be ring-fenced for fixing potholes. I don't actually know if they can do that, but yeah, it's... The thing is that all of this is true. Like, they've saved a total of what? 32, 40, over 40, like 50 odd million, 56 million, I think. And yet they still have to raise council taxes. If anything, that just goes to show how bad Westminster is, that despite all of these savings, they still have to raise council taxes because of how ridiculous. And again, bear in mind, they've inherited this council off Tories who ran it since like 1997. It's...
And they've been doing all this.
Yeah, exactly, and they've managed to like save 50 odd million in 6 months. That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
And that's with limited power as well. Genuinely, they have limited power on what they can cut, because Reform are definitely going to look into the cost of social care. It's just astronomical. I don't have it, but someone made the tweet of checks out Kent County Council budget. It's basically all social care. It's like, yeah, they are literally at the bare bones of what they can actually cut from everything reported on it, basically. And there's no counter argument I'm seeing anywhere. Nobody's trying to say, yeah, no, they haven't. They're just trying to say, oh, look, they have to raise council taxes. It's like, yeah, that's Tory's fault. What do you want? So it's unfortunate they couldn't cut taxes, but hopefully they don't have to increase it to the maximum. That I think would be a big win. But there we go. Oh yeah, the Greens had their conference as well. Heroin and crack cocaine should be legalised, Green leader says.
He immediately wins Dundee from that alone.
I was going to say he probably wins half the Tory party as well, allegedly.
Yeah, he calls Labour the handmaidens of reform. All drugs should be legalised. Oh, God. Zach Palensky accused Starmer of failing to go far enough on issues such as the climate crisis. Just, yeah, all the worst parts of the past 20 years of politics instilled in one man. I don't know if you watched my video on the internet.
Look at that physiognomy.
There's a man who can hypnotise you to have bigger boobs. Oh, God. Did any of you see my video covering his interview with Aaron Bastani? Where, like, this guy's too left-wing for Aaron Bastani.
He couldn't give a straight answer as well, or is that a different one? Where it's like he couldn't just say yes and no to the questions, and it was very frustrating.
He kept kind of trying to rephrase the questions ways he was comfortable answering, but it's things like he was asked directly about what you're going to do about, like, Aaron Bastani was like, can you actually address these parts that the right wing are correct about on migration? And he was like, yeah, they're lying. Like, that's all he could really say. And Bastani's like, yeah, but like on the housing crisis, say, like, they're right that there's more demand, aren't they? And he's like, no, we just build a load of council houses. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like, that would help house prices, I agree, but not by much. Like, you know, you have to do the interest rate thing and get rid of immigrants as well. They're two very good ways to do it. But yeah, I mean, Green Party had a conference. Who cares?
I think actually it's probably worth sort of keeping an eye on the Green policies, because if your prediction is correct that the Greens are basically going to take over from Labour, then it's probably a good idea to know whether at least what they're saying, right?
Well, it might not be the Greens. It might be Lib Dems. Honestly, it's hard to say. One thing we're all pretty much agreed on, and everyone's agreed on, is that it's every party conference is basically, to some extent, reform bad, apart from the Tories who are ignoring the elephant in the room because going on about reform is what everyone else does and it sucks. Everyone agrees it's going to be reform. Who the second party is going to be, I don't know. Because everyone's saying, oh, you know, it's a five-party system now. And it's like, yeah, for now, when you get closer to an election, though, people are going to start planting their flags somewhere. And a lot of people, especially on the left especially, are going to plant it in the biggest party. Which is either going to be, I think, Labour or Lib Dem. My money would go on Lib Dem because Labour incumbency is absolutely horrible. So, yeah. But, I mean, it's still worth watching the Greens because they're going to represent the absolute worst of our politics, which is Islamo-communists. Because it's really funny, like, obviously Zach Palensky's Jewish and his deputy's a Muslim who, when he was elected, was basically like, free the people of Palestine, Allahu Akbar. Then again, he was very good at Hare Hills. He was the Hare Hills riot councillor who was basically telling people to stop. They were rioting, by the way, over a child being taken away from, or children being taken away from a parent because the parent was being neglectful. And like a toddler had head injuries because she left them alone for like 3 hours or something.
I think the younger child dropped it or something.
I don't know that.
That's what I heard.
I don't know the details of how it got the head injury, or can't remember them. I probably said it in the video, but yeah, it's not ideal. But yeah, they had a riot in Hare Hills over the authorities doing what they should have done. So yeah,
it's arguable if it was because of that. Because
go on.
It was weird because if I can remember correctly, it was a Romanian community. But then I think because there was like that unrest, it just kind of spread out. And then you just had the kind of different enclaves kind of join in. because nobody really knew what they were kind of going against. They were just going against the authority, I guess.
Right. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, I remember it was a Romanian community where it started. I didn't remember much beyond that, though.
No, you might be right about that, but the flashpoint was that with the child protection services doing their job, and then they set a bus on fire. It's nuts.
Yeah.
But you know, and to be fair, the Green deputy leader was a man saying, "Yeah, we shouldn't be doing that." The funniest part of the whole Green Party thing, by the way, one, they have elections every 2 years for their leader, which is mad. Secondly, neither the leader nor the deputy leader are in Parliament. Zach Polanski, he might be a London Assembly member, or he's not got a political job. He might be an ex-Assembly member, I can't remember. And then, yeah, the deputy leader's a councillor. I just don't, like, they're so anti-hierarchy that I think it's going to shoot them in the foot. And I think the same thing will happen with your party. You know, they could both break down and merge into God knows what, your Green Party. So, who knows?
I just remember, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Antifa or another group like it, or BLM or something like that.
When?
Oh, this was a while ago. I think this was around the time, either before or around the time of the Portland riots, like the first lot. But they had these videos of them doing like this sort of training, training to fight the fascists kind of thing. And I think I vaguely remember that they were like, "Oh, we are." We are completely equal and all this stuff, and they just all the footage was like the women were in the kitchens making Molotovs, and all the men were like in the fields like practicing like their range stuff or their all the physical stuff, and it was just the funniest thing where you're like, nature takes over, nature takes precedence.
Antifa have been in America especially training up. They have here really as well, but they're just a much smaller force. Carl Benjamin's right when he says Antifa isn't the biggest threat in like Germany and America, but they're still a threat here. You know, there's been attempts. I mean, Carl got attacked by Antifa. I don't know how he forgot that, but whatever. Anyway, I think that's all we have for today. So, Greens are stupid. Zach Polanski, I think it's going to be a bit of a flash in the pan because, the Greens have this addiction of just voting someone else in just because they can. And depending how Zach Polanski goes, it might happen to him. But to be fair to him, he's quite charismatic. But if he's just going to go down the same route of, we should try and do what we've tried to do for the past 10 years, I can't see him getting that far. But what do I know? Well, I know quite a lot. That's why I run a YouTube channel. Right. Okay, so with that, it's shill time. Enigmatic, are you good for Thursday to finally play some Life is Strange?
Yes, I cannot wait.
Good. Because I ran out of time last week. I did not have the time to stream it, but hopefully, yes, from this week it'll be a weekly thing. And then next week it's Tosh Talk, so get your topic suggestions in. And then, videos out as and when I can make them on my channel. There will be another Wolves of Westminster podcast, so there you go. Probably out Friday. We're recording it tomorrow. So there'll be plenty to talk about with the Tory cabinet conference. That's the word I'm looking for, so there we go. Right. Obviously, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to my channel, become a member, like the video. There's only 9 of them. There's 27 of you watching. What's going on there? Come on, like it. It's good for us. Follow us on Twitter, join the Discord, etc. Right. I'd like to thank the